A blessed day, learners. I'm Teacher Lumaban, and I will be your guide in this video. If you are new in my channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be updated in my videos. This time our topic is the review notes in criminal sociology, ethics and human relations. Part 5, study of criminal behavior. Be ready as we start. Learn and enjoy our topic for today. Be safe, and God bless you always.
Commit your way to the Lord, trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. Psalm 37 verse 5.
Study of criminal behavior. Criminal psychology. In general, psychology is the science of behavior and mental processes. This means that psychologists use the methods of science to investigate all kinds of behavior and mental processes, from the activity of a single nerve cell to the social conflict in a complex society. Bernstein, et al., 1991. In particular, criminal psychology is a subfield of general psychology where criminal behavior is only, in part, by which phenomena psychologists choose to study. It may be defined as the study of criminal behavior, the study of criminal conduct and activities in an attempt to discover recurrent patterns and to formulate rules about his behavior. A major description of criminal psychology is the word behavior. Behavior refers to actions or activities. Magaña, 1985. To the criminologist, behavior is the observable actions because he is more interested in actions and reactions that can be seen and verified than in concepts, which cannot be directly verified. Classification of behavior. 1. Normal behavior, adaptive or adjusted behavior, the standard behavior, the totality accepted behavior because they follow the standard norms of society. Understanding criminal behavior includes the idea of knowing what characterized a normal person from an abnormal one. A normal person is characterized by efficient perception of reality, self-knowledge, ability to exercise voluntary control over his behavior, self-esteem and acceptance, productivity, ability to form affectionate relationship with others. 2. Abnormal behavior, maladaptive/maladjusted behavior, a group of behaviors that are deviant from social expectations because they go against the norms or standard behavior of society. A maladaptive, abnormal, person may be understood by the following definitions. Abnormal behavior according to deviation of statistical norms based in statistical frequency. Many characteristics such as weight, height, and intelligence cover a range of values when measured over a population. For instance, a person who is extremely intelligent or extremely happy would be classified as abnormal. Abnormal behavior according to deviation from social norms, a behavior that deprives from the accepted norms of society, is considered abnormal. However, it is primarily dependent on the existing norm of such society. Behavior as maladaptive. Maladaptive behavior is the effect of a well-being of the individual and/or the social group. That some kind of deviant behavior interferes with the welfare of the individual, such as a man who fears crowd can't ride a bus. This means that a person cannot adopt himself with the situation wherein it is beneficial to him. Abnormal behavior due to personal distress. This is abnormally in terms of the individual subjective feelings of distress rather than the individual behavior. This includes mental illness, feeling of miserably, depression, and loss of appetite or interest, suffering from insomnia and numerous aches and pains. Abnormality in its legal point, it declares that a person is insane largely on the basis of his inability to judge between right and wrong or to exert control over his behavior. Bartle, 1995. Kinds of behavior. 1. Overt or covert behavior. Behaviors that are outwardly manifested or those that are directly observable are overt behaviors. On the other hand, covert behavior are behaviors that are hidden, not visible to the naked eye. 2. Conscious or unconscious behavior. Behavior is conscious when acts are within the level of awareness. It is unconscious when acts are embedded in one's subconscious, unaware. 3. Simple or complex behavior. These are acts categorized according to the number of neurons involved in the process of behaving. Simple behavior involves less number of neurons while complex behavior involved more number of neurons, a combination of simple behaviors. 4. Rational or irrational behavior. There is rational behavior when a person acted with sanity or reason, and there is irrational behavior when the person acted with no apparent reason or explanation, as when a man loses his sanity and laugh out loud at nobody or nothing in particular. 5. Voluntary or involuntary behavior. Voluntary behavior is an act done with full volition or will, such as when we discriminate, decide, or choose, while involuntary behaviors refers the bodily processes that goes on even when we are awake or asleep, like respiration, circulation and digestion. Aspects of behavior. 1. Intellectual aspect. This aspect of behavior pertains to our way of thinking, reasoning, solving, problem, processing info and coping with the environment. 2. Emotional aspect. This pertains to our feelings, moods, temper, and strong motivational force. 3. Social aspect. This pertains to how we interact or relate with other people. 4. Moral aspect. This refers to our conscience and concept on what is good or bad. 5. Psychosexual aspect. This pertains to our being a man or a woman and the expression of love. 6. Political aspect. This pertains to our ideology towards society/government. 7. Value/attitude. This pertains to our interest towards something, our likes and dislikes. The criminal formula. Where? C. Crime/criminal behavior, the act. T. Criminal tendency, desire/intent. S. Total situation, opportunity. R. Resistance to temptation, control. The formula shows that a person's criminal tendency and his resistance to them may either result in criminal act depending upon which of them is stronger. This means that a crime or criminal behavior exists when the person's resistance is insufficient to withstand the pressure of his desire or intent and the opportunity. Tradio, 1983. In understanding this, the environment factors such as stress and strains are considered because they contribute in mobilizing a person's criminal tendency and the individual's psychological state, while resistance to temptation arises from the emotional, intellectual, and social upbringing and is either manifestation of a strong or weak character. Determinants of behavior. The answer to these questions requires the study and understanding of the influences of heredity and environment. As cited by Twazan. Heredity. Biological factors. This refers to the genetic influences, those that are explained by heredity, the characteristics of a person acquired from birth transferred from one generation to another. It explains that certain emotional aggression, our intelligence, ability, and potentials and our physical appearance are inherited. It is the primary basis of the idea concerning criminal behavior, the concept that criminals are born. It also considers the influences of genetic defects and faulty genes, diseases, endocrine imbalances, malnutrition, and other physical deprivations that can be carried out from one generation to another. Environmental factors, socio-cultural influences. Family background. It is a basic consideration because it is in the family whereby an individual first experiences how to relate and interact with another. The family is said to be the cradle of personality development as a result of either a close or harmonious relationship or a pathogenic family structure, the disturbed family, broken family, separated or maladjusted relations. Pathogenic family structure, those families associated with high frequency of problems such as the inadequate family, characterized by the inability to cope with the ordinary problems of family living. It lacks the resources, physical or psychological, for meeting the demands of family satisfaction. The antisocial family, those that espouses unacceptable values as a result of the influence of parents to their children. The discordant/disturbed family, characterized by non-satisfaction of one or both parent from the relationship that may express feeling of frustration. This is usually due to value differences as common sources of conflict and dissatisfaction. The disrupted family, characterized by incompleteness whether as a result of death, divorce, separation, or some other circumstances. Childhood trauma, the experiences, which affect the feeling of security of a child undergoing developmental processes. The development processes are being blocked sometimes by parental deprivation as a consequence of parents or lack of adequate maturing at home because of parental rejection, overprotection, restrictiveness, overpermissiveness, and faulty discipline. In the environment, the following are also factors that are influential to one's behavior. 1. Institutional influences such as peer groups, mass media, church and school, government institutions, NGOs, etc. 2. Socio-cultural factors such as war and violence, group prejudice and discrimination, economic and employment problems and other social changes. 3. Nutrition or the quality of food that a person intake is also a factor that influences man to commit crime because poverty is one of the main reasons to criminal behavior. Other determinants of behavior. In order to further understand and provide answers on the question that why do some people behave criminally, it is important to study the other determinants of behavior. These are needs, drives and motivation. Needs and drives. Need, according to a drive reduction theory, is a biological requirement for well-being of the individual. This need creates drives, a psychological state of arousal that prompts someone to take action. Bernstein, et al., 1991. Drive therefore is an aroused state that results from some biological needs. The aroused condition motivates the person to remedy the need. For example, if you have had no water for some time, the chemical balance of the body fluids is disturbed, creating a biological need for water. The psychological consequence of this need is a drive, thirst, that motivates you to find and drink water. In other words, drives push people to satisfy needs. Motivation. Motivation on the other hand refers to the influences that govern the initiation, direction, intensity, and persistence of behavior. Bernstein, et al., 1991. Thus motivation refers to the causes and whys of behavior as required by a need. Motivation is the hypothetical concept that stands for the underlying force impelling behavior and giving its direction. Kahayan, 1975. Drives are states of comfortable tension that spur activity until a goal is reached. Drive and motivation are covered in the world of psychology, for they energize behavior and give direction to man's action. For example, a motivated individual is engaged in a more active, more vigorous, and more effective than unmotivated one, thus a hungry person directs him to look for food. Biological needs motivational systems. Food hunger. The body needs adequate supply of nutrients to function effectively. An empty stomach sometimes drives a person to steal. Water thirst. Just like food, the body needs water. Sex a powerful motivator, but unlike food and water, sex is not vital for survival but essential to the survival of species. Pain avoidance. The need to avoid tissue damage is essential to the survival of the organism. Pain will activate behavior to reduce discomfort. Stimulus-seeking curiosity is most people and animal is motivated to explore the environment even when the activity satisfies no bodily needs. Psychological needs are influenced primarily by the kind of society in which the individual is raised. Psychological motives are those related to the individual happiness and well-being, but not for his survival, unlike the biological motives that focuses on basic needs, the primary motives. Abraham Maslow has suggested that human needs form a hierarchy from the most basic biological requirements to the needs for self-actualization. The highest of all needs. The pyramidal presentation shows that from the bottom to the top of the hierarchy, the levels of needs or motive according to Maslow, are 1. Biological or physiological needs. These motives include the need for food, water, oxygen, activity, and sleep. 2. Safety needs. These pertains to the motives of being cared for and being secured, such as in income and place to live. 3. Love/belongingness. Belongingness is integration into various kinds of social groups or social organizations. Love needs means need for affection. 4 cognitive needs are motivation for learning and exploration. 5 esteem needs are motivation for an honest, fundamental respect for a person as a useful and honorable human being. 6 aesthetic needs are motivation for beauty and order. 7 self-actualization pertains to human total satisfaction, when people are motivated not so much by unmet needs, as by the desire to become all they are capable of, self-realization. According to the Maslow's formulation, the levels that commands the individual's attention and effort is ordinarily the lowest one on which there is an unmet need. For example, unless needs for food and safety are reasonably well met, behavior will be dominated by these needs and higher motives are of little significance. With their gratification, however, the individual is free to devote time and effort to meet higher level. In other words, one level must at least be partially satisfied before those at the next level become determiners of action. Frustration, conflict, and anxiety. Frustration refers to the unpleasant feelings that result from the blocking of motive satisfaction. It is a form of stress, which results in tension. It is a feeling that is experienced when something interferes with our hopes, wishes, plans and expectations. Coleman, 1980. Conflict refers to the simultaneous arousal of 2 or more incompatible motives resulting to unpleasant emotions. It is a source of frustration because it is a threat to normal behavior. Bearstein, et al., 1991. Types of conflicts. 1. Double approach conflict. A person is motivated to engage in 2 desirable activities that cannot be pursued simultaneously. 2. Double avoidance conflict. A person faces 2 undesirable situations in which the avoidance of one is the exposure to the other, resulting to an intense emotion. 3. Approach avoidance conflict. A person faces situation having both a desirable and undesirable feature. It is sometimes called dilemma, because some negative and some positive features must be accepted regardless which course of action is chosen. 4. Multiple approach avoidance conflict. A situation in which a choice must be made between 2 or more alternatives, each has both positive and negative features. It is the most difficult to resolve because the features of each portion are often difficult to compare. Anxiety is an intangible feeling that seems to evade any effort to resolve it. It is also called neurotic fear. It could be intense, it could be low and can be a motivating force. Coleman, 1980. Stress is the process of adjusting to or dealing with circumstances that disrupts, or threatens to disrupt a person's physical or psychological functioning. Bernstein, et al., 1991. The ego defense mechanisms. The defense mechanisms are the unconscious techniques used to prevent a person's self-image from being damaged. When stress becomes quite strong, an individual strives to protect his self-esteem, avoiding defeat. We all use ego defense mechanisms to protect us from anxiety and maintain our feeling of personal worth. We consider them normal adjustive reactions when they are used to excess and threaten self-integrity. Bernstein, et al., 1991. Example: denial of reality, protection of oneself from unpleasant reality by refusal to perceive or face it. Simply by avoiding something that is unpleasant. Fantasy, the gratification of frustration desires in imaginary achievement. Paying attention not to what is going on around him but rather to what is taking place in his thoughts. Perspective on the causes of criminal behavior. 1. Anxiety, psychological perspective, stressful situations that when become extreme may result to maladaptive behavior. 2. Faulty learning, behavior perspective, the failure to learn the necessary adaptive behavior due to wrongful development. This usually result to delinquent behavior based on the failure to learn the necessary social values and norms. 3. Blocked of distorted personal growth, humanistic perspective, presumably, human nature tends towards cooperation and constructive activities. However, if we show aggression, cruelty, or other violent behavior, the result will be an unfavorable environment. 4. Unsatisfactory interpersonal relationship, Self-concept in early childhood by overcritical parents or by rigid socialization measures usually causes deviant behaviors among individuals because they are not contented, and even unhappy among individuals because they are not contented and even unhappy to the kind of social dealings they are facing. 5 Pathological social conditions. Poverty, social discrimination, and destructive violence always results to deviant behavior. Patterns of criminal behavior. Neurotic or psychoneurotic patterns are groups of mild functional personality disorders in which there is no gross personality disorganization, the individual does not lose contact with reality, and hospitalization is not required. Anxiety disorders. Anxiety disorders are commonly known as neurotic fear. When it is occasional but intense, it is called panic. When it is mild but continuous, it is called worry, which is usually accompanied by physiological symptoms such as sustained muscular tension, increased blood pressure, insomnia, etc. They are considered as the central feature of all neurotic patterns. These disorders are characterized by mild depressions, fear, and tensions, and mild stresses. 1 Obsessive-compulsive disorders. Obsessions usually centered on fear that one will submit to an uncontrollable impulse to do something wrong. Compulsion, on the other hand, resulted from repetitive acts. Wicks, 1974. An obsessive-compulsive disorder is characterized by the following: when an individual is compelled to think about something that he do not want to think about or carry some actions against his will, and the experience of persistent thoughts that we cannot seem to get out of our minds, such as thoughts about haunting situations. 2 Asthenic disorders. Neurasthenia, an anxiety disorder characterized by chronic mental and physical fatigue and various aches and pains. Symptoms include spending too much sleep to avoid fatigue but to no avail, even feel worse upon awake, headaches, indigestion, back pains, and dizziness. 3 Phobic disorders. These refer to the persistent fear on some objects or situation that present no actual danger to the person. Examples of phobia: acrophobia, fear of high places. Somatoform disorders. Complaints of bodily symptoms that suggest the presence of physical problem but no organic basis can be found. The individual is preoccupied with his state of health or diseases. 1 Hypochondriasis. This refers to the excessive concern about state of health or physical condition, multiplicity about illness. 2 Psychogenic pain disorder. It is characterized by the report of severe and lasting pain. Either no physical basis is apparent, reaction greatly in excess of what would be expected from the physical abnormality. 3 Conversion disorders. Hysteria. It is a neurotic pattern in which symptoms of some physical malfunction or loss of control without any underlying organic abnormality. Dissociative disorders. A response to obvious stress characterized by amnesia, multiple personality, and depersonalization. 1 Amnesia. The partial or total inability to recall or identify past experiences following a traumatic incident. Brain pathology. Amnesia. Total loss of memory, and it cannot be retrieved by simple means. It requires long period of medication. Psychogenic amnesia. Failure to recall stored information and still they are beneath the level of consciousness but forgotten material. 2 Multiple personality. It is also called dual personalities. The reason manifests 2 or more symptoms of personality, usually dramatically different. 3 Depersonalization. The loss of sense of self or the so-called out-of-body experience. There is a feeling of detachment from one's mental processes or body or being in a dream state. Cases of somnambulism, sleepwalking, may fall under this disorder. Mood disorders. Affective disorders, often referred to as affective disorders. However, the critical pathology in these disorders is one of mood, which is the internal state of a person, and not of affect, the external expression of emotional content. Manual of mental disorder. 1 Depressive disorders. Major depressive disorder. Patients with depressed mood have a loss of energy and interest, feeling of guilt, difficulty in concentrating, loss of appetite, and thoughts of death or suicide. They are not affected with manic episodes. 2 Dysthymic disorder, a mild form of major depressive disorder. 3 Bipolar disorders. those experienced by patients with both manic and depressive episodes. 4. Cyclothymic disorder, a less severe form of bipolar disorder. Psychopathic patterns, group of abnormal behaviors, which typically stemmed from immature and distorted personality development, resulting in persistent maladaptive ways of perceiving and thinking. They are generally called personality or character disorders. These groups of disorders are composed of the following. Personality disorders, the disorders of character. The person is characterized as a problematic without psychoses. This disorder is characterized disrupted personal relationship, dependent or passive-aggressive behavior. Paranoid personality disorder, it is characterized by suspicious, rigidity, envy, hypersensitivity, excessive self-importance, argumentativeness and tendency to blame others of one's own mistakes. Schizoid personality disorder, this is characterized by the inability to form social relationship and lack of interest in doing so. The person seem to express their feelings, they lack social skills. They are the so-called loners. Schizotypal personality disorder, it is characterized by seclusiveness, oversensitivity, avoidance of communication and superstitious thinking is common. Histrionic personality disorder, it is characterized by immaturity, excitability, emotional instability, and self-dramatization. Narcissistic personality disorder, it is characterized by an exaggerated sense of self-importance and preoccupation with receiving attention. The person usually expects and demands special treatment from others and disregarding the rights and feeling of others. Borderline personality disorder, it is characterized by instability reflected in drastic mood shifts and behavior problems. The person usually displays intense anger outburst with little provocation and he is impulsive, unpredictable, and periodically unstable. Avoidant personality disorder, it is characterized by hypersensitivity to rejection and apprehensive alertness to any sign of social derogation. Person is reluctant to enter into social interaction. Dependent personality disorder, it is characterized by extreme dependence on other people, there is acute discomfort and even panic to be alone. The person lacks confidence and feels helpless. Passive-aggressive personality disorder, it is characterized by being hostile expressed in indirect and nonviolent ways. They are so-called stubborn. Compulsive personality disorder, it is characterized by excessive concern with rules, order, and efficiency that everyone does things their way and an ability to express warm feeling. The person is over-conscientious, serious, and with difficulty in doing things for relaxation. Antisocial personality disorder, it is characterized by continuing violation of the rights of others through aggressive, antisocial behavior without remorse or loyalty to anyone. Psychotic patterns, are group of disorders involving gross structural defects in the brain tissue, severe disorientation of the mind, thus it involves loss of contact with reality. Organic mental disorders, a diagnosis of organic mental disorder is associated with a specific, identified organic cause, such as abnormalities of the brain structure. These are mental disorder that occurs when the normal brain has been damaged resulted from any interference of the functioning of the brain. 1. Acute brain disorder, caused by a diffuse impairment of the brain function. Its symptoms range from mild mood changes to acute delirium. 2. Chronic brain disorder, the brain disorder that result from injuries, diseases, drugs, and a variety of other conditions. Its symptoms includes impairment of orientation, time, place, and person, impairment of memory, learning, comprehension and judgment, emotion and self-control. Groups of organic mental disorders. 1. Delirium, the severe impairment of information processing in the brain affecting the basic process of attention, perception, memory, and thinking. 2. Dementia, deterioration in intellectual functioning after completing brain maturation. The defect in the process of acquiring knowledge or skill, problem solving, and judgment. 3. Amnestic syndrome, the inability to remember ongoing events more than a few minutes after they have taken place. 4. Hallucinosis, the persistent occurrence of hallucinations, the false perception that arise in full wakefulness state. This includes hallucinations on visual and hearing or both. 5. Organic delusional syndrome, the false belief arising in a setting of known or suspected brain damage. 6. Organic affective syndrome, the extreme/severe manic or depressive state with the impairment of the cerebral function. 7. Organic personality syndrome, the general personality changes following brain damage. 8. General paresis, also called dementia paralytica, a syphilitic infection of the brain and involving impairment of the CNS. Disorders involving brain tumor, a tumor is a new growth involving abnormal enlargement of body tissue. Brain tumor can cause a variety of personality alterations, and it may lead to any neurotic behavior and consequently psychotic behavior. Disorders involving head injury, injury to the head as a result of falls, blows and accidents causing sensory and motor disorders. Senile and pre-senile dementia. Mental retardation. Mental retardation is a mental disorder characterized by sub-average general functioning existing concurrency with deficits in adaptive behavior. It is a common mental disorder before the age of 18. The person is suffering from low IQ, difficulty in focusing attention and deficiency in fast learning. Schizophrenia and paranoia. Schizophrenia refers to the group of psychotic disorders characterized by gross distortions of reality, withdrawal of social interaction, disorganization, and fragmentation of perception, thoughts and emotion. It also refers to terms such as mental deterioration, dementia precox, or split mind. Paranoia, it is a psychosis characterized by a systemized delusional system. A delusion is a firm belief opposed to reality but maintained in spite of strong evidence to the contrary. It is also a psychosis characterized by delusion of apprehension following a failure or frustration. Addictive behavioral patterns. Psychoactive substance use disorders such as alcoholism affects millions of people. Addiction and psychological dependence on these substances create disastrous personal and social problems. Bernstein, 1991. Sexual dysfunctional patterns. Sexual deviations to the impairment to either the desire for sexual gratification or in the ability to achieve it. Coleman, 1980. Those affecting males. 1. Erectile insufficiency, impotency. It is a sexual disorder characterized by the inability to achieve or maintain erection for successful intercourse. 2. Premature ejaculation. It is the unsatisfactory brief period of sexual stimulation that result to the failure of the female partner to achieve satisfaction. 3. Retarded ejaculation. It is the inability to ejaculate during intercourse, resulting to worry between partners. Those affecting women. 1. Arousal insufficiency, frigidity, a sexual disorder characterized by partial or complete failure to attain the lubrication or swelling response of sexual excitement by the female partner. 2. Orgasmic dysfunction, a sexual disorder characterized by the difficulty in achieving orgasm. 3. Vaginismus, the involuntary spasm of the muscles at the entrance to the vagina that prevent penetration of the male sex organ. 4. Dyspareunia, it is called painful coitus/painful sexual acts in women. Sexual behaviors leading to sex crimes. As to sexual reversals. Homosexuality, it is a sexual behavior directed towards the same sex. It is also called lesbianism/tribadism for female relationship. Transvestism refers to the achievement of sexual excitation by dressing as a member of the opposite sex, such a man who wears female apparel. Fetishism, sexual gratification is obtained by looking at some body parts, underwear of the opposite sex or other objects associated with the opposite sex. As to the choice of partner. Pedophilia, a sexual perversion where a person has the compulsive desire to have sexual intercourse with a child of either sex. Bestiality, the sexual gratification is attained by having sexual intercourse with animals. Autosexual, self-gratification/masturbation, it is also called self-abuse, sexual satisfaction is carried out without the cooperation of another. Gerontophilia, is a sexual desire with an elder person. Necrophilia, an erotic desire or actual intercourse with a corpse. Incest, a sexual relation between person who, by reason of blood relationship, cannot legally marry. As to sexual urge, satyriasis, an excessive, sexual urge, desire of men to have sexual intercourse. Nymphomania, a strong sexual feeling of women with an excessive sexual urge. As mode of sexual expression. Oralism, it is the use of mouth or the tongue as a way of sexual satisfaction. Aphilatio, male sex organ to the mouth of the women coupled with the act of sucking that initiates orgasm. B. Cunnilingus, sexual gratification is attained by licking the external female genitalia. C. Unalism, unnolingus, licking the anus of the sexual partner. Sadomasochism, algolagnia, pain/cruelty for sexual gratification. Sadism, achievement of sexual stimulation and gratification through the infliction of physical pain on the sexual partner. It may also be associated with animals or objects instead of human beings. Masochism, infliction of pain to oneself to achieve sexual pleasure. As to part of the body, sodomy, is a sexual act through the anus of the sexual partner. Uronism, sexual gratification is attained through fingering, holding the breast of licking parts of the body. Frottage, the act of rubbing the sex organ against body parts of another person. Partalism, it refers to the sexual libido on any part of the body of a sexual partner. As to visual stimulus, voyeurism, the person is commonly called the peeping Tom, an achievement of sexual pleasures through clandestine peeping such as peeping to dressing room, couple's room, toilets, etc., and frequently the person masturbate during the peeping activity. Scoptophilia, the intentional act of watching people undress or during sexual intimacies. As to number of participants in the sexual act, troilism, 3 persons participate in sex orgy such as 2 women versus a man or vice versa. Pluralism, group of persons in sexual orgies such as couple-to-couple sexual relations. It is also called sexual festival. Other sexual abnormalities. Exhibitionism, it is called indecent exposure, intentional exposure of genitals to members of the opposite sex under inappropriate conditions. Coprolalia, the use of obscene language to achieve sexual satisfaction. Don Juanism, the act of seducing women as a career without permanency of sexual partner or companion. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
I hope you learned something new about our topic on review notes in criminal sociology, ethics and human relations. Part 5, Study of Criminal Behavior. If you learned something in this video, please give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to share this video with your friends to also learn about this topic. If you have comments, questions, and suggestions, you can leave a message in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching my videos. Hoping that we meet again in my next video, and God bless you always. It is Teacher Lumaban YouTube channel.